Hello everybody, and let me talk to you about some more Shadowverse Evolve. Today what I prepared for you are some tips, tricks, and interactions that are certainly relevant in today's metagame. My goal is that hopefully one of these interactions that I have for you isn't something that you already knew, and perhaps it'll help improve your tournament gameplay ever so slightly because you learned something a little bit today. With that being said, we're going to go straight into the very first card that I wanted to cover, and this is going to be a tip for Havencraft players out there that may have not known about this little secret about Hair of Illusions. Hair of Illusions is a zero-cost amulet that allows you to play the cost of engaging this card, sending it to the cemetery, and selecting an enemy follower on the field and forcibly engaging it. Typically, you would do this so you can combat any followers your opponent may have reserved, so they don't get any value out of it next turn. You'd also be comboing this card with the best card in your deck right now, Holy Sentinel, to get a free Holy Tiger with Rush and Ward. Hair of Illusions also has an additional effect that costs 10 play points to banish the board, but that's not what we're covering today. The advice I wanted to give for Hair of Illusions is that you can actually activate this card, pay its cost of engaging it, and sending it to the cemetery to target an already engaged follower. This is super important to know because, as I said before, Holy Sentinel is Haven's strongest card, and the deck really has a much easier time of controlling the state of the game when Sentinel is on the board. The issue with Holy Sentinel is that the card alone on activation doesn't give you any value. You commit 5 play points to activate it, and if you don't have an amulet to send to the cemetery, you're just kind of hoping that your opponent doesn't do anything too aggressive to put you in a position where you're too overwhelmed or you can't catch up anymore. On turn 5, you're just activating Holy Sentinel and passing. Knowing what you know about Hair of Illusions now, though, you can combo this card with Holy Sentinel to get a Tiger with Rush and Ward out on your 5th turn. The only reason why you wouldn't be able to do this is if your opponent has no followers at all, or the only followers they have the aura effect, meaning they can't be targeted. The next card I'd like to shed some light on is actually Erd, everyone's favorite single spot removal in the form of a neutral follower. As most of you watching may know, Erd's effect allows you to select an enemy follower on the field and put it in the EX area. And of course, you can then evolve Erd and banish any card out of the opponent's EX area. But what I wanted to cover with Erd is what happens when you target a card on the field to move to the EX area when the EX area has already met its 5 card capacity. Some of you may have already guessed, it's not very exciting, but if you target a follower with Erd's effect and the EX area is full, then the follower cannot move to the EX area, and ultimately it just stays where it is, unchanged. It's not exciting, like I said, but it's definitely something good to remember next time you're considering playing Erd, or when someone's playing it against you, that if the EX area is full, Erd's effect essentially, quote-unquote, fizzles out. The next card I'm covering is Trail of Light. This card, as some of you may know, is most popular in D-Shift decks because you can discard it with cards like Penguin Wizard to essentially replace itself in your hand for free. It's a super key combo, and Trail of Light definitely makes Penguin Wizard, I'm thinking Yu-Gi-Oh! Penguin Wizard, much scarier than it is on its own. What I wanted to particularly bring to your attention with this card is that during the end phase of the turn, as you may know, the hand size limit in Shadowverse Evolve is 7 cards, meaning at the end phase, you must make sure that your hand size doesn't exceed 7 cards. So what I wanted to present to you is, let's say your hand size at the end phase is 8 cards, and you of course have to discard to 7. You can discard Trail of Light during that point, and after you've done so, Trail of Light will actually trigger and draw you an extra card, putting you right back to 8 cards again. I want to point out that doesn't mean you're going to get around the 7 card limit, but you then have to review your hand again and discard until you have 7 cards again. But this is important, and this is a nice little interaction because it means you can dig 1 card deeper into your deck, so that way you can sculpt your hand to be the best it can be, or at least 1 card better than it could possibly be for the next turn. And it also just helps you fill your graveyard up 1 extra card, if that makes any sense. The next card I wanted to go over is actually none other than Path to Purgatory, and this is actually a very quick and simple tip to go over. and that is that the effect to deal 6 damage to each enemy follower in the field is an optional one to activate. The way this effect reads is at the start of the end phase, if your leader's life is 6 or less, engage and put this card into your cemetery to deal 6 damage to each follower on the field. This card has a cost of activating the effect, and that is to both engage the card and send it to your cemetery. And in Shadowverse Evolve, effects that contain a cost, while worded in a way that appears like it's mandatory, are in fact optional. Meaning you do not have to use this effect to deal 6 damage to your opponent's followers if you don't want to. Cards won't say things like you can do this, directly appearing optional. So it's important to know this mechanic when playing in tournaments, so that way you can properly utilize your resources and not burn through them, like using this effect on a turn where they have nothing or you don't really want to. You don't have to send this card and deal 6 damage to everything. And then finally, the last card I want to talk to you about today is actually Merlin, particularly its evolution. A lot of people will read Merlin's Evolve effect and probably think something along the lines of Merlin basically copies the effect of a spell in a cemetery. I personally have seen so many Runecraft players that simply point at the card that they intend for Merlin to quote-unquote copy, and they just resolve the effect as if it were the same as the card they selected in the cemetery. In most cases, that's not really a big deal for them to do that, and it in most cases won't have an impact on the game. However, there's certain situations, particularly with spell chain counts, that this actually means a lot. Going to Merlins Evolve, you can see that it reads, on Evolve, select a spell that costs 3 play points or less in your cemetery and play it for 0 play points. The key word here is that you actually play the card you select in the cemetery, meaning that the card you selected is not in the cemetery when resolving Merlin's effect. It's temporarily moved to the resolution zone, which more or less means the field, but just most importantly, not the cemetery. So if you're playing against a Runecraft player, make sure that you're carefully counting the spells in the cemetery, aka spell chain count, without including the card that was selected with Merlin's effects, because it would not be in the cemetery at the time that you're resolving Merlin's Evolve effect. And that's all I actually had for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the tips that I provided. By no means did I discover these or consider myself to be a flawless expert in understanding the rules of the game, but I do try to play competitively and try to stay in touch with important interactions that'll help me defeat my opponents or prevent myself from getting unintentionally cheated because I didn't know better. So I hope this, you all thought this was great. Let me know if there's other interactions you would like me to cover in the future. With that being said, hope I catch you in my next video, and I will see you next time.